bit of a stats video, this one, which I don't normally do. Not how many dribbles did somebody do, how many tackles did somebody do, but it's the stats in terms of who spent what in the transfer market. Now, you've got to take a lot of this stuff with a pinch of salt, but it does give you an overview. So some of it might be wrong. Are agents' fees included? Are they not? What's the add-ons, the clauses if somebody reaches 15 goals or if a team qualifies for Europe? All these things impact the price that you're going to pay for a footballer. However, I think it's a decent enough overview of it. Why am I talking about this? Because I can't quite get my head around West Ham's spend up, basically. Now, there's going to be a couple to be added to this list. So as I record this now, which is basically Saturday afternoon going into Saturday evening, I don't think Newcastle have ratified their deal for Isaac, who's obviously signing for about 70 million quid. So we'll add that into the equation. And West Ham have still yet to rubber stamp the deal for Paquetá, which I think I've been told, Tony told me that the way to pronounce it, and Tony should know because Tony's wife is Brazilian, Paquetá. That's how you say it. Paquetá. Paquetá. I think it's Paquetá. We're going to go with Paquetá until Tony sends me a WhatsApp message and corrects me. So once that goes through, it takes our spending. Well, look, I'll go through it now. It makes us the top spenders in the Premier League. Now, all the spending is not done. And then you add to that, we've actually been linked with Adnan Januzaj. He's a free transfer. We're not going to pay much money for him, but there's still wages to be put on there. And then it's just made my mind go over and over and over everything in this transfer window. The amount that we offered for Onana, the fact that we backed out of a deal for Jesse Lingard when clearly we could afford to go the extra mile. And I like that, by the way. I like the fact that whoever, David Moyes, Newman, Sullivan, whoever it is, I don't really care, has said, no, Jesse Lingard is worth X amount and we're not paying any more, even though we got it. And I think that's really, really important to do that. It's a bit listy, this video. Let me go through it now. Chelsea, 181 million, right? Now, they've recouped 26 million. So I'm not going to go with... It's just to give you an overview. Second biggest spenders are Nottingham Forest, 133 million. Now, that's amazing. They've brought in 18 players, according to the list, 18 players. They sold £6 million, so it's negligible. That doesn't matter. Man United have spent big. Man United have spent... Their net spend is 120 million. You would expect that because Man United are a very, very rich club. They've got a new manager coming in. They've got a lot of ground to make up, haven't they, to be back to where Man United used to be. Arsenal, big spenders, we know this. They bought Jesus. Of course, they bought Zinchenko. Haven't they? Basically, they've spent, Arsenal, 118 million, but they've recouped 22 million. Now, at the moment, before we've even added on Paquetá, West Ham are there, again on 116 million. Now, we don't quite know what we're going to pay, but it's about 50... The rumour is about £53 million, right? That makes us the highest because our income is not great. All we've done is, we didn't get an awful lot, I don't think, for Issa Diop, 10 million plus add-ons, something like that. We didn't get the deal that we wanted, that's for sure, because, well, as the rumour suggests, Issa Diop kicked up a little bit of a stink to try and get his transfer. Anyway, we've spent the Tottenham 107 million, but they've recouped 34. Wolves have spent 106 million, but they've recouped 35. Newcastle is one. Newcastle have already spent 60. And Isaac, I think, is going to be worth 70. So that's 130 million, right? But it doesn't matter. Obviously, the further I go down the list, the less people have spent. Southampton, 50 million. Brentford, 45 million. And on it goes, Crystal Palace, 30. And it doesn't matter. I don't need to read much further. I do want to read one more, actually two more, if I may. Aston Villa, who have been put up there the last two seasons, start the window as the poster boys, the way to do things. They've bought in 49 million, but they've sold 35. Liverpool, 77 million, which I guess that 77 million that's the money for Núñez minus the add-ons. I think once the add-ons, it's 85, right? So clearly add-ons are not being included in this list, but they've recouped 72 million. Basically, Liverpool spent 5 million quid. Wow, Leicester have just not spent any money, and they've sold 900 grand worth of players. I find this fascinating, actually. I've got to say, it's not normally my type of video. Anyway, where's the money come from? And why are we spending this money? And there's been a couple of answers already when I touched upon it in yesterday's video about Paquetá, and a few of the people said, well, it's basically because we've underspent for years and years. So that's why the money's there. I sort of agree with that, but that might explain where the money's come from a little bit, but that doesn't explain why it's spent, which I want to get onto in just a second, particularly as there was something really interesting that Kieran Maguire said to me. Before I go any further, this video is sponsored by Spitch, which you could download by clicking the link below. What's Spitch? Spitch is a fantasy football app, the next generation of fantasy football app. Most importantly, have you got your team in for this week? If you haven't, don't bother. It's too late. Well, actually, it's not. You could pick loads of players from the teams that are playing tomorrow and still get in and submit your team. But I put my team in today. I showed it to you yesterday. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he played very well. Well, I say played very well. He didn't really play very well for me, did he? Probably played very well for himself and Liverpool and whatnot. I had Kevin De Bruyne in there. I had David De Gea in there. I almost put Haaland in. I didn't. Silly me. We live and learn. I did have a little sneaky look at Gio's team, and most of his players are playing like either later today or tomorrow, so we don't know what's going on with that yet. Look, as you watch this, you'll already know the Arsenal result as I'm recording it. I don't. If you want to join in, then what you've got to do is you download the Spitch app. It is free to download, and there's a little search bar in the communities tab. Search for Hammers Chat, and you can join our Hammers Chat mini league. I think we're up to nearly 150 participants just in the Hammers Chat mini league. Now, if you want to play other games on Spitch, you can do. You can win big prizes, up to £70,000 worth of prizes each and every week. You do have to be 18 and over to participate. Go and check it out. Okay, so I had a chat with Kieran Maguire for our Patreon site, and I put a couple of the clips up on this channel, actually. And I asked Kieran, I said, how much have West Ham got to spend without going over the financial fair play limit? And he said it's not the easiest thing to calculate in the world. He said, but I'd imagine West Ham could spend about 105 million and not be in trouble. So I know the instant thought when you say that is, well, hold on, West Ham have overspent, where they're going to get the money from? And you think, well, okay, they're going to get to the end of the window, they're going to sell Bowen or they're going to sell Declan Rice. But I don't think we are. And I've also seen from the way Everton have done their business, which is apparently they were one day away from breaching the rules, which is why they had to sell Richarlison and sell Richarlison on precisely the day they did. But it's almost like it was a box-ticking exercise, because then they went on a little spending spree themselves. So it's almost like they got some money in to show that they get money in, then the money they got in, they just spent straight away. So I'm not entirely sure how it works, and I'm not overly worried, actually, because, I mean, I don't think we'll sort of incur any sort of punishment for doing so at all. But I just want to get back to the spending, and regardless whether it's Sullivan or whether it's Kretinsky money coming in, why is it being spent? I understand the argument, the money is coming from an underspend on previous years. Okay, fine. But they've always underspent, apart from that time under Pellegrini. Why now? Why right now? And I do have a suspicion, a real suspicion, that maybe people who are wanting to take control of West Ham eventually, now that may be Kretinsky, it might not be Kretinsky, Trip Smith, I don't know. The water is muddy in that sense. Have possibly said, well, you know, just have a spend up. What we don't want to do is honour a deal and take over a club that's going to be fighting relegation. That being said, when most of these transfers were sanctioned, West Ham weren't really on the threat of that. And I don't think we're under the threat of relegation now. But I think if I was an investor ready to invest £500 million in a football club, I would be worried about it. As a football fan at the moment, 3 games in, am I worried about it? No, I'd rather we have some points, but I'm not worried about it. If I had, as I say, hundreds of millions riding on it, I probably would be. But actually, when we bought a Gers, we weren't in that situation. And all the way through, David Moyes has been very confident, been very coy about it. We're going to make transfers. There's money there. He's always been very consistent. The owners have been very good. They've given me money. They've given me finances. I have money. This was the narrative. This is what he was saying. I have money. I'm saving it. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste the money. I think when he was saying I don't want to waste the money, I never thought it'd be this much. I did a video months ago. Maybe it was the end of last season. And I said, I do wonder, how much is it going to be? 130, 150 million? I do remember there was a comment on it. And I'm not saying it to say I predicted it. I didn't. I was just musing and wondering whether that would be the case or not. And somebody wrote a comment on the video and they said, 150 million, Gonzo, you're deluded. You must be mad. They'll never spend that. And I remember that comment because I remember thinking, I don't particularly believe that. And I think when Moyes was saying, I want to be careful with the money, I was thinking, well, maybe he's got 80, 90 million. He wants to get the most out of it. He wants to be really, really careful with it. I never thought for a moment that we'd be looking at 175, 180 million that David Moyes would be looking to be careful with, because that's really something. That is a real weird one. And I do understand that some people are going to say maybe we're spending the money that we're going to get in next season for Declan Rice. Okay, I understand the argument, but that's not how our owners operate. Our owners haven't really been like that. So I think they're really going for it. And I think this has been the plan all along, both from David Moyes and from the owners, which is why they didn't want to waste the money. Now, the question is, why are they really going for it? And you can either look at it that they're really going for it from a sporting sense, that what they're doing is they're gonna go for it because of the glory, because of the sporting glory, because they enjoyed their run in Europe and they want it to continue. Or they're really going for it because just the ownership of the club is going to change. And for me, that has to be the reason. I'd love to think it was for sporting glory. Wouldn't we all? But I do think it's to safeguard where we're going to be. And I just wonder, I'm not entirely sure. I've said this for some time. And if you watch the channel regularly, you'll know this. I've said this for quite a few months now. I'm far from convinced Kretinsky is going to be overall our long-term owner. I'm far from convinced. He's never shown... He's always taken small percentages in companies. Even just recently, he's trying to up his stake, I think, to something like 25% in the Royal Mail. He takes even Sparta Prague. I think he's got 40% or something like that. I've never been convinced. I always thought it was more of an investment from him. But so whether it is Kretinsky taking all the shares or it's somebody else in the background who's looking to take over West Ham, I do wonder if they've been the ones saying to Gold Sullivan or saying to the board, you need to spend now. We'll honour our price. We'll honour whatever we're going to pay for West Ham. But you're going to need to spend. We need to take over this club in a healthy position. I don't know. I find it quite strange, but I never thought, not for the life of me, that I'd be looking at that sort of league, when I say the league table, the transfer net spend league table for Premier League business, and seeing West Ham at the top. I just, honestly, I think even if you try and take all those mitigating factors into it, we're still there. Even if Chelsea buy one more player, and actually we'd still be second. Who would have thought it? I mean, Newcastle have been taken over by, everyone says Newcastle United, the richest club in the world of football. Now, I'm not entirely sure that's the case. I'm not entirely sure they have unlimited funds from the Saudi investment fund, because I just think if they did, they would have bought Chelsea. They would have gone, but they didn't. They were haggling, if you remember, with Mike Ashley over whether the club was 280 million or 300 million. I said then I wasn't entirely sure. I'm not saying they're skin. I think Newcastle are a rich club, don't get me wrong. But who'd have thought that in this window, and Newcastle haven't stopped their spend. Newcastle can spend more than West Ham in this window. But who'd have thought that West Ham might outspend Newcastle? And that's what it's looking like. Don't get me wrong, we needed to do this. We absolutely needed to do this because our squad was so thin. And I'd still suggest that we don't know how good Agerd is yet, but because of the unfortunate injury. But I still think when you look at it, I don't think it's screaming out with a bunch of players who walk into that first team. The reason I say Agerd, maybe he does. A £35 million central defender, left-footed. Maybe he's meant to go straight into the team. Paquetá, maybe he's meant to go straight into the team. Maybe the long-term plan is for Scamacca to go straight into the team. but I've yet to be convinced that David Moyes wants to do that. So I think a lot of it has been squad bulking out, but I think he's done it, quite well. I think it's not finished yet. The business doesn't seem to be over. Wouldn't rule out a loan bid. I mean, some people are saying Conor Gallagher. I can't imagine we'd do that and Paquetá, but some people are saying we might be back in for Breuer. It is really, really interesting. Even a transfer like Emerson ain't cheap, by the way. 13 million rising to 15. Okay, the outlay is the transfer fee is not huge, but he's not going to be on cheap wages. Yes, he's taken a bit of a pay cut, but he's not going to be coming on the cheap, that's for sure. I think that's quite interesting, that dynamic of Emerson maybe have helped facilitate Paquetá coming over as well. I'm really interested. I'm almost as excited about the spend up as I am the players coming in, because I don't know if it signifies a new direction for West Ham. I don't know. Look, I might be wrong. Maybe this is it, and we've spent the next 5 years worth of money. I don't know. I don't know, but it seems different. It feels different, and even if we'd have shown a little bit of ambition, well, okay, well, that's great. But to see ourselves at the top spenders, and obviously the deal's got to go through. But as I understand it, the medical's tomorrow, by the way. The deal's got to go through. It goes through. Never seen it before. Never in my life have I seen West Ham outspend, Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea and all these other teams. It shows ambition. I'll tell you what, it really shows ambition. I'm unconvinced yet why we're showing that ambition. But I'll tell you what, can't fault it, really.